All right, welcome to Black Swan Revelations Daily Devotion. Today we're going to be jumping into the book of Genesis, as this is where I am right now. I'm getting through the entire Bible this month. I started last Sunday, so it's been a week. I've managed to get from Romans all the way to the end of Revelations, and now I'm in Genesis. So I thought I would just spend a little bit of time and talk about the flood. A lot of people are familiar with this story, but maybe I can give you a little bit of insight as to what's going on. So we're going to start from Genesis chapter 6, verse 14, where God is telling Noah to build an ark. It says, "Make thee an ark of gopher wood, rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and shalt pitch it within and without pitch. This is the fashion which thou shalt make of it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, and the breadth of it 50 cubits, which is interesting, and the height of it 30 cubits." And I'll come back to this. "A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above." So there is a window above the ark. "And the door of the ark that thou shalt set the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories thou shalt make it." So this sounds like the ark has 3 levels. "And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and every living thing that is in the earth shall die. But with thee I will establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, and thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee, and every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort, shalt thou bring into the ark to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind, cattle after their kind, and creeping thing of the earth after its kind, his kind. 2 of every sort shall come unto thee to keep them alive," which is interesting. God brings all the animals to Noah because they didn't have the fear of dread like they do after the flood. So it was probably easy to round up these creatures because the Lord sent them to Noah. "And take thou thee of all the food that is eaten, thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be for food for thee and for them. Thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him, so did he." And the interesting thing to note is it's probably a lot, their diet, the people's diet, the humans' diet back then was probably a lot of plants, herbs, fruits, fruit trees, all this kind of stuff. So it wouldn't be hard to maintain a diet of fruit and vegetables, especially if all the animals kind of ate the same thing. They ate all of the green grass. So it wouldn't be a problem to store food on the ark because that was what the diet of people were before the ark. They weren't eating meat. People weren't eating meat. Now, it's not to say that there wasn't people that were eating meat, but from the Garden of Eden, we see pretty clearly that Adam had a diet of fruits and vegetables. So he said, you can eat from any of these trees in the garden. And of the animals, herb-bearing plants, herb-bearing trees, if you will. So the animals were eating basically vegetation. That's what they were doing. They weren't devouring each other with meat, because that would involve a lot of food for the animals. And how do you keep food preserved in an ark for a year if you don't have any deep freezers and all this kind of stuff? So I believe the diet was mostly fruit and vegetables. Was there a way for them to actually grow fruit and vegetables on the ark? I think it's possible we can do that today. We have plants that we can grow inside our home. I believe that Noah had that knowledge to be able to grow fruit as well, vegetables to sustain them. I think it's reasonable to assume that, and especially if the animals have that type of diet, it wouldn't be out of the question to grow herbs for, or vegetation, as I should say, for the animals to eat as well. So remember, this is before the flood. After the flood, things changed. The animals became fearful. They didn't hang around mankind as easily as before. And God sent some rules in place saying that you shall not eat of the flesh of the blood that is in the flesh. That could, to me, that could be cannibalism. You don't eat each other, because maybe that's what was happening to the wicked people. They were killing, and there's giants in the land. Maybe they're eating people, all this kind of stuff. And God's saying, okay, from now on, you're not eating each other. You're not killing animals with blood in it. You can eat anything, any of the clean animals, you can eat them. That's your diet. I'm changing your diet now. And any animals that eat people or kill people, I shall require their life. Same thing for people. If you eat people or kill or murder people, I will require that person's life. Seems pretty clear that that's what's happening in the book of Genesis. All right, so let's get into where are we now? Entering the ark. Here's the promise. Thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him. And the Lord said to Noah, come thee into the ark. Okay, we read all that. Noah was 600 years old, and the flood of waters was upon the earth. And Noah went in, and his sons, all the clean beasts. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. And in the 600th year, so this was 100 years, it took Noah 100 years to build the ark. And in the 600th year, this is when the flood came. 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. So this is a different type of a flood. This is not just a regional flood. This is a worldwide flood, because the fountains of the deep were open and the windows of heaven were opened up, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. In the self same day entered Noah and his family, and I'm going to skim a little bit. Every beast, 2 of 2, all this. And then verse 17, and the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bare up the ark, and it was lifted above the earth. So the ark was the only substance left that was created by man. And the waters prevailed and were increased greatly upon the earth. The ark went upon the face of the waters. We'll come back to that. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills and all the high hills that were covered under the whole heaven were covered. Boy, I wish I could read. And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered, which is interesting, right? So let me just share my screen. Let's go here. Let's go to the whiteboard. Let's draw a little bit of perspective here. This is, we're going to use, this is from Noah's perspective. We have the window here that's on top of the ark. And I know this is a crude drawing of the ark, but bear with me. And then in the distant, we see the water. So this is from Noah's perspective, and every once in a while, he's going to see mountains submerged underwater. Oops, the mountaintops. Okay. So imagine that this is what Noah sees that the mountains are being covered by about 15 cubits. So if we were to draw an imaginary line to here, we would see 15 cubits, meaning the waters actually rose 15 cubits above the mountains. So if you think about it from the perspective of Noah having a peak, he might have been able to sneak out and have a look from on top of the ark. I don't know if he had a ladder and climbed out and had a peek because he used the window and could tell that the water was actually raising 15 cubits above the mountains. That would be the only way that he would have a perspective of how high the water had risen, because the ark itself was 30 cubits in length, meaning this would give Noah a perspective of how high the water is rising and falling. And I believe that the ark was designed in a way not to flip. So after it stopped raining, Noah was able to open the window and have a look around, have a gander, and see what's going on outside the ark. So he had a bit of a perspective. And once the waves were consistently rising above the mountains, and every once in a while they would dip down below 15 feet or 30 feet, he can give a bit of a perspective as to how high they are. If he never saw mountains, he would never know how high up they are. He can only guess that they're just up as high as the heavens, but that's not really what's the right word? It's not really accurate. Accurate is to see hints of the mountains, the mountain tops, the tips of the mountains, with waves going above the mountains and waves going below the mountains. As obviously there was circulation on the water, there was currents, all kinds of stuff going on. So this is just an interesting perspective that Noah had, and I believe this is why he had a window on top, so God could allow Noah to have a look around. So I believe that is what is happening here. So I am just going to continue now with the waters. Where are we now? 15 cubits, and all the flesh died. My dog wants in here. All flesh died that moved upon the earth, both fowl, of cattle, of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. And if the water didn't raise above the mountains, I think it would be very hard to kill the birds off, because they could still survive. And all whose nostrils was breath of life, and all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and the creeping things, and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. To me, that means I should have looked up the meaning, but I'm assuming it means the waters have stopped rising. Fountains also of the deep and the windows of the heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. No more rain. The waters returned from off the earth continually, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. Now, if you look up what the word abated means, it could also mean null or void. Where did we ever see that? Well, if you go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, we see in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, abated. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Boy, we could sure get a glimpse of the idea based on the gap theory that perhaps, just perhaps, when we get to Genesis 1, that we are witnessing an earth that was just flooded, just finished being flooded, because it looks exactly the same as what happens in Genesis 8. So if we go over to Genesis 8, we see here that the waters were abated. Verse 4, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. And the waters deceased continually unto the 10th month, and in the 10th month on the 1st day of the month were the tops of the mountains seen. So again, this is what Noah is witnessing. He's paying attention to the mountains. He's paying attention to the area that he is in, because that tells him how much time is left on the ark. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. So he sent out a raven. Ravens have a typical radius of about 50 to 100 miles. So I believe one of the reasons that Noah sent a raven out is if there is any life, any branches, any trees, whatever it is, that raven would not come back, would not stick around. And ravens are also highly intelligent as well. You can teach a raven tricks as well. Speaking of which, I gotta pause this for 1 sec. Sometimes my dog is quite annoying. When he barks by the door, I think he just wants to play or something. So I sent them back outside. Anyways, continuing on, the mountains rest, Mount Ararat. Then we have a raven, which could be trained quite easily, whether through language. That doesn't necessarily mean that the raven was a parrot or anything like that. But because we know, you can watch YouTube videos of how intelligent ravens are, I believe a raven could be able to give enough information to Noah as to how close they are to leaving the ark, because nobody wants to stay on the ark forever. Verse 8, and he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. They want to know if they can actually step onto the ground, because it's one thing to be able to see the mountains. It's another thing for the ground to be solid enough that they can actually leave the ark without getting stuck or any of that kind of stuff. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot. Probably no trees yet. No tree life, because there was no place for the dove to rest. For the waters were on the face of the whole earth. Then he put forth his hand and took her and pulled her in unto him into the ark. So Noah would send the dove out, hold out his hand, and the dove would come back. And what's interesting is the dove has nesting capabilities as well. So that if he sent the dove out and the dove didn't come back, it's a good chance that the dove is making a nest. And depending on the time of season, he sent the dove out. He stayed yet other 7 days again. He sent forth the dove out of the ark, and the dove came in unto him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. This is close enough that they can start contemplating the idea of leaving the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him anymore. Now it's building a nest. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the first month, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. So this could be the window. This could be another covering. Not sure. And in the second month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried, as in good enough for them to leave. God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee of all the flesh, both of fowl, of cattle, of every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, and they may breed abundantly in the earth and be fruitful and multiplying upon the earth. Noah went forth, and his sons and his wives and his sons' wives with him, and every beast, every creeping thing, every fowl, whatsoever creepeth upon the earth, and after their kinds went forth out. Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took every clean beast, every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings unto the altar. So it looks like from here that he did not release all the birds, because some of them had to be sacrificed and presented a sweet offering to the Lord. So verse 21, and the Lord smelled a sweet savor. The Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, and summer, and winter, and day and night shall not cease. And God blessed Noah and his sons, said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Replenish, same term that's used with back to the garden, talking about having Adam and Eve replenish the earth, the animals replenish the earth. It's all again tying back to what appears that the earth was already flooded once before. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, multiply, and fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth. So something's changed now. All the beasts, all the animals, all the creatures are in fear of men. So if you wanted to flood the earth again, it'd be very difficult, because now you're not going to be able to round up these creatures. Upon all the moves on the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. So even the fish have a fear of dread when it comes to man. In your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. So this is different now, because now, as I used to give you, or as the green herb here, I given you all things, I now give you meat. So every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. So it's interesting that it says every living thing shall be meat. And Paul talks about, he says, like, if you're giving thanks, it doesn't matter what food you're eating. Could be pork, could be anything. This goes back, if the Jews are hung up on Gentiles eating everything, and they say we should follow the Noahic laws, if you will, then they just have to read Genesis chapter 9, where God says everything. You could eat everything. Everything is meat for you. But the flesh of life thereof, which is the blood thereof, ye shall not eat. As in, if there's a live animal, you're not allowed to go up to it and just start eating it like you are an animal. You don't do that. And you don't do that to people. You don't eat people. This is an abomination to God. Cannibalism. Who knows if that's what happened, if that's how Cain killed Abel? I'm not sure. We don't have a body. Don't know what Cain did. Just shows that Cain slew Abel. But it's interesting that the word cannibal is kind of like Cain and Abel. Cannibalism. It's frowned upon just about every society. You're not allowed to eat each other. And specifically with animals, you're not allowed to eat animals that are alive. It's horrendous to just walk up to an animal and start eating them. It's barbaric. Same thing with animals. Animals aren't allowed to eat people. If they do, they're to be killed. It's corruption. So if an animal kills a person, mauls a person, or eats a person, they are to be killed. If a man does the same thing, eats another man, he is to be killed. If he murders another man, he is to be killed. Life for life. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. And I'm skipping ahead a little bit. For in the image of God made he man, and you be fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. Same commandment he gave to Adam. God spake unto Noah and his sons with him, saying, and behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, cattle, every beast that go out of the ark, and every beast of the earth. I will establish my covenant with you, neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by waters of a flood. No more flooding. Neither shall there be any more a flood to destroy the earth. So not only am I going to destroy or kill everyone by a flood, but I'm not going to destroy the earth as well. And God said, this is the token of the covenant which I made between me and you and every living creature for perpetual generations. It's interesting. This is the first time we see the word perpetual show up. So this is kind of like forever. This is a forever covenant, meaning you're never going to see a worldwide flood again. You're never going to see it. So if people are saying the ice caps are going to melt and there's going to be a flood, it doesn't matter if the ice caps melt, because the windows of heaven wouldn't open up and the fountains of the deep wouldn't open up. So it's impossible to flood the earth. Verse 13, I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and the earth, which is kind of interesting. Verse 14, it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all the flesh, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all the flesh that is upon the earth. So it's interesting that God creates a token, which is the rainbow. So whenever it rains, we see a rainbow in the clouds. And this is to remind us, mainly to remind God, that he is never again going to destroy the earth with a flood. Now, I find it fascinating, and you probably know where I'm going with this, is how a group of people can use the rainbow as pride, basically, for, like, we have all these different communities, the gay, the lesbian, all this as one community that uses the rainbow to signify their pride in being who they are. So they claim who they're born to be, all this kind of stuff, their right to practice all these things. So they use the symbol that God created by saying that whenever it rains, when it's done raining and you see a rainbow, this is a reminder to me that I'm not going to destroy the world by a flood. Why did I destroy the world? Because of pride. A lot of people had pride, and they were doing things that they shouldn't do. They were mixing DNA. There were giants in the world back then. There was corruption. They were probably, there's bestiality, all kinds of stuff, mixing man with animals, causing confusion to the animals, probably eating the animals while they're alive, probably eating each other, having sex with whoever it is that they wanted. And this was the pride that they had. And the second they woke up, they wanted to do evil until they went to sleep at night. And God said, I can't do this anymore, because their sins have reached all the way up to here, and I have to destroy them. And then now, after the flood, God says, whenever it rains, when it's done, I'm going to show you a rainbow that that reminds me whenever I see that rainbow that I'm not going to destroy the world by a flood. And then you get groups of people that are like using the rainbow, the very thing that God said, I'm using this as a reminder not to destroy you. They're using it as a symbol of pride, which is horrible when you think about it. They're basically right in God's face saying, we don't care that you destroyed the world once before with a flood, and that you have this symbol that is used as a reminder, this token that's used as a reminder that you're not going to destroy us again by a flood. And we're using that symbol for pride. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing to do. I don't know how this happened. It's a crazy thing to use a symbol that God uses to remind us of the pride that we used to have. And that's what got us destroyed the first time around. We basically disobeyed anything to do with God. We didn't want to have anything to do with God, and the whole world got destroyed because of it. It's interesting. Anyways, there's my thoughts. Hope you got something out of the book of Genesis. That's just basically a couple of chapters. If you got something out of it, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Feel free to comment. Let me know what version of the Bible you're reading. If it's a King James, I read from the King James Bible only. I won't go into detail as to why I do it, because you can watch some of my other videos. But it's very important to have a version that you could read every single day. And right now it's about 11 o'clock my time. And I got up at 6 o'clock and I read till 7. And then over the past hour or so, I've been making this video. So 4 hours a day doesn't seem to be too much anymore. I used to have trouble reading the Bible for 5 or 10 minutes, let alone for 4 hours in one sitting. I could talk about the Bible all day long. Now I can listen to the Bible all day long. I can read the Bible all day long. The only thing that's keeping me from doing that is I also have a job. I have a life. I have a family, all this kind of stuff. But I really enjoy reading the Bible. Hopefully you can understand that and get that from me, that is basically one of my main hobbies, is reading the Bible every single day, all day long, all night long. And now I am going to finish this video, and I'm going to go out in the backyard and tidy up the backyard and make it all nice and pretty for the summer. Hope you got something out of this. Hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in another video. Bye for now.